Rain hammered against the apartment window, turning the outside world into a blur of silver streaks. Sitting alone in his room, he stared at a faded photograph clutched tightly in his hands. The image showed his mother frozen in mid-performance, dressed in a black ballet leotard and white tights, her graceful pose preserved forever. It was the one picture he treasured above all others. Life had changed drastically since losing her. The foster system had placed him in a stranger's home, a place that never truly felt welcoming. Everything inside seemed carefully arranged, controlled down to the smallest detail. Even the scent of lavender polish lingered in every corner, as if the woman who lived there demanded order from the world itself. She stood silently near a mirror, observing him with unsettling patience. Draped over a nearby chair was a black leotard. Its smooth fabric looked impossibly small, like it belonged to someone entirely different. "Put it on," she said calmly. The softness of her voice made the command even harder to resist. His eyes darted toward the door. For a brief moment he imagined leaving, escaping before any of this could continue. But the woman stepped closer, her expression composed and unwavering. "You gave me your word," she reminded him. "And our guest will arrive soon." The mention of the visitor tightened a knot in his stomach. Reluctantly, he picked up the garment. The material felt cool against his fingertips. Taking a slow breath, he pulled it over his shoulders. As he adjusted it, the mirror reflected every tremor in his hands. The woman moved behind him and gently brushed his hair away from his face. "There," she said with quiet satisfaction. "Now people can finally see what I've seen all along." He stared at his reflection. The figure in the mirror felt unfamiliar, caught somewhere between the person he knew himself to be and the image she seemed determined to create. Then a sharp knock echoed through the apartment. The woman's smile widened. "Perfect timing," she said. The words felt unfamiliar as they left his lips, carrying a weight he wasn't sure he accepted. Across from him, the man glanced down at the notebook and continued. "Repeat after me. I will trust the guidance that helps me become who I am meant to be." A knot tightened in his chest. The corset hugged his ribs, a constant reminder of how much had changed in such a short time. Yet standing beside him, the woman said nothing. She didn't need to. Her quiet presence carried its own pressure. After a brief hesitation, he repeated the vow. "I will trust the guidance that helps me become who I am meant to be." The man acknowledged the answer with a slight nod before reading the final line. "I will remain open to the person others see in me until I discover that person for myself." Something shifted inside him. Not agreement. Not surrender. Only uncertainty. The kind that appears when an old certainty begins to crack. Was he uncovering something hidden within himself, or simply becoming whatever they expected him to be? He couldn't tell. Still, the words came. "I will remain open to the person others see in me until I discover that person for myself." The notebook closed with a quiet snap. "Then it is finished." The room fell silent. The woman stepped forward and gently raised his chin. Her expression held none of the triumph he expected. Only conviction. "You've crossed a threshold," she said softly. "Where you go from here is your choice." He stood motionless beneath the weight of the dress and the echo of the ceremony. Part of him felt bound. Another part felt strangely free. For the first time, he wasn't certain which feeling was stronger. Later, after the room had emptied and the voices faded into distant conversation, he found himself standing alone before the mirror once more. The makeup had smudged slightly. The dress still felt unfamiliar. The reflection staring back carried traces of someone he recognized and someone he didn't. He studied the image carefully. Not with fear. Not with resentment. With curiosity. The face in the mirror wasn't replacing him. It was asking questions. Questions he had spent years avoiding. His fingertips brushed the satin fabric. The sensation felt different now. Not like a costume. Not like a punishment. Simply a possibility. A shape. A version of himself he had never allowed space to consider. The thought arrived quietly. Maybe I've spent more time running from this than understanding it. His pulse quickened. Not because the idea frightened him. Because it felt honest. And honesty was far more difficult to ignore than fear. When he looked back into the mirror, the reflection no longer seemed like a stranger. It looked like someone waiting to be understood.